Have you ever wondered how some people manage to build incredible wealth and yet others struggle? It's a question that's a puzzle, and I think it's really worth exploring right here today. Recently, I listened to the Algebra of Wealth by Scott Galloway, where he breaks down the process of becoming wealthy. And he breaks it down into four key factors. So while we often look at folks like Warren Buffett, who started investing really as a teenager, or even Ronald Reed, that famous janitor who built an $8 million estate, the truth is both of them, their success was not about luck. It was about understanding capitalism and leveraging it to their advantage. Hi, my name's Sally Boyle, the founder of S.J. Boyle Wealth Planning, and we work with folks helping them plan for their retirement. So Galloway argues that economic security comes from understanding capitalism, and not just in theory, but in practice. This understanding isn't reserved to just the wealthy, by the way. It's accessible to anyone who is willing to participate in the system through what would be consistent and prudent financial behavior. So let's go over two of the four strategies that Galloway highlights in his review. The first is economic security, and the second one is a smart saving strategy. So let's talk about economic security, or what I guess we would call financial independence. And that is the point in your financial life where your passive income exceeds your expenses. Now, this is where you gain control over your life. You're free from any financial stress. You're free from wondering where the money's going to come from. You actually have more saved and you're generating more income than your expenses. So this isn't about winning the lottery, a sudden windfall of some sort. It really is about just saving consistently, being consistent in putting money away and building an asset base that supports your lifestyle. Now, a simple formula for this is the old 4% rule. And this is where the target amount that you save, what you're trying to save towards, is really about 25 times your annual expenses. So if your annual expenses are $100,000, it may be $2.5 million. Now, that may sound like a daunting task, but it really starts with a two-step process. First is earn more than you spend, and then save and invest it wisely. So it's not a mystery. It's really just about setting priorities and consistently sticking to them. So once you've gotten to that point where your passive income is more than your expenses, when you're saving more than you're spending, the question is then, where do I save? Where's the first and most important place to put my money to get the most bang for my buck? And today we have so many savings vehicles, that becomes a little bit confusing, actually. So here's a breakdown of a good sequence of savings. First and foremost, you want to have an emergency fund. And you start by building that emergency fund that covers at least 6 months worth of income. Now, why do you do this? This saves you from invading your more long-term investments because something unexpected happens. The car breakdowns, you have a healthcare emergency, something happens with your children. And so if you've got about 6 months worth of expenses where your earning capacity is interrupted for whatever reason, you've got enough to pay your expenses, and that saves you from getting into your long-term investments. Let's say getting into long-term investments that may be in the stock market where you have to invade that when the market is down. So you've got that emergency fund set aside so that you have at least 6, maybe even 12 months of expenses set aside to take care of yourself. Now, once you have that emergency fund established, what you want to do is put money into your retirement plan. And if you've got access to a 401k or a 403b, that should be your next focus. So you start contributing as soon as you can. The first day that you are, it's available to you. The first day that you qualify, because even a small contribution, $25, $50, $100, if that is put in consistently enough, early enough, you can grow substantial wealth. Is the magic of compound interest. And so the most important thing is that you save as much as your employer match. And if it's 100% of the first 3% that you save, then you really try as hard as you can to save that 3%, because essentially your employer match is free money. Now, once you have your emergency fund established and you are participating in your employer plan, at least to the extent of your employer match, the next place is your health savings accounts. And those are often overlooked, but they're a unique trifecta of benefits. You've got a tax deduction for putting the money in. You have tax deferred growth on all of the earnings, no taxes on that growth. And if you use it for medical expenses, you have a tax-free withdrawal. So that's almost the perfect investment if you make that withdrawal for medical expenses. But after age 65, the HSA can be used for any expenses. It's not limited to just medical expenses. The difference is that you will pay taxes if you withdraw from it without a medical reimbursement. But given that most of us may face some fairly significant healthcare expenses in retirement, it's probably more likely that we will be making withdrawals tax-free because we'll be using them for medical expenses. Now, the fourth place you want to save after those first three, your emergency fund, your 401k, your health savings account, it would be to maybe save in an IRA, an individual IRA, if it's available to you based on your income. And it doesn't really matter whether you opt for a traditional or a Roth IRA. That's going to depend on your tax bracket. But IRAs offer more investment options than the typical employer plan. And for that reason, there can be some flexibility in terms of where you invest. And that can be a significant advantage. So it's okay to have an IRA, Roth, or regular, in addition to your 401k and your 403b. And then if you still have discretionary income, a great place to be is just to put some money into a brokerage account, an after-tax account. Because if you've maxed out the above options and you have it almost acts as if a complement to your emergency fund, except that you can invest it in more long-term investments. And so you can even put it into hard assets like real estate that will generate some passive income for you. So there are excellent opportunities to invest in after-tax investments that will complement your pre-tax, your 401k, and your 403b. So when we think about building wealth, it isn't a one-time task. It requires ongoing effort. It requires that you establish a plan, that you execute on that plan, and that you even review it regularly. Your financial situation is going to change, your tax bracket is going to change, and even the economy will change over time. So be ready to adapt and be flexible. Look for some advice, stay informed, do some research, do your reading, because remember that building wealth is a journey of consistency, discipline, and smart decision-making. So by following these two strategies, you can harness the power of capitalism to achieve your financial independence and enjoy the freedom that comes with it. So as always, if you have questions, please schedule a discovery call below. Like this content if you have, and sign up to visit us regularly to help you build your wealth strategies.